What is up, guys? We are back with another episode of the Mainly Celtics Podcast. I'm here. Matt Money's here with Nolan today. Emery is without us because of work conflict, but we had a pretty solid week. We went 3-2 on the week. Do you have any overall thoughts on how the week went?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Pretty big review today. We've got 5 games. I feel like it was more positive than negative since we last recorded. That Lakers win is really sticking with me, not to jump ahead too much. But play out of some of the role players. Dennis has been awesome in this stretch. Starting to get the defense back on track. You want to start with that loss at Cleveland?
Yeah, we can start with that one. I just thought overall, like you said, like I was pretty positive with it because we went 3-2. But at the same time, we did play some like decent teams, at least for the most part. And also we were without JB for all 5 games, and without Rob for like four and a half of them. So, or not 4.5 of them, like 3.5 of them. So it was pretty big being down 2 starters for 3 games, going 2-1 in our last 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even quite realize that's probably an average of 60 minutes we are making up at least when they're both.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, those are 2 starters that are been playing huge minutes for us all year. And like we've said, like our bench is deeper than it was last year, but it's still not a super deep bench. And we kind of did see that get exposed a little bit. But if we were to look at the first Cleveland game, once again, both these Cleveland games were ugly, both very low scoring. The first game, Mobley and Garland really had their way with our defense. Overall, the defense I thought looked pretty good. Mobley looked really impressive. Schroeder came to play. Same with Rob. I believe Rob had 12 points, 16 boards, 3 blocks in this game. So big games out of him. I did say, I didn't make the bet, but I did say if I was a betting man, I'd smash the over. I said I guaranteed Rob was getting a double-double, which he did. But in the end, this was a close game. I feel like the Celtics should have won, but we kind of feel like fumbled it down the stretch.
Yeah, good defense holding them to 91. Tatum was 1 for 8 from 3. What's interesting with these Cleveland games is I remember heading into these thinking like, man, Cleveland's been looking pretty good this year. And I never wish an injury on anyone. But of course, Allen and Mobley both go out after our 2-game stint with them. So we kind of caught them in like their hottest stretch. And now you see them really struggling without those 2 bigs.
Yeah, and they had just lost Sexton like a few games before. So it really stinks because Cleveland was looking like one of those fun, kind of promising young teams with a really solid core 4 of players in Mobley, Allen, Garland, and Sexton. And obviously we saw even guys like Shetty Osman, I believe that's how you say his name, who's still fairly young, I believe. I think he's like 25, 26. He's pretty solid. And Isaac Okoro, he really hasn't kind of exploded yet, but he was a guy that I believe was a number 4 pick only a couple of years ago. And so they have a really promising future. It just really sucks that they had to deal with those injuries, but it was beneficial for us, at least in the second game of the series.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about Okoro a little. That's interesting. He'll probably get some opportunities here. I want to say it's just his second year. He was.
Yeah, I think it's second. Yeah, that sounds right. I knew he was an early pick. I believe he was like one of those guys that was projected to be a defense first guy and a guy that maybe was more of a project type player.
He was Auburn,
maybe
right?
He was 5th. Yeah, I think he was Auburn because I think Patrick Williams was 4th. I think Okoro was probably 5th.
Yeah, I mean, but we split with them. We really, want to be winning both of those, but we kind of got them at their top and didn't have Jalen for either. I feel like we'll take the split. It's tough when you play the same team, like in a 2 or 3 night span. I feel like you often see them go 1-1, even when there's like a bigger discrepancy.
Yeah, and we were kind of fortunate, honestly, the second game too, because I thought it was kind of a fluky game, but usually the fluky games you lose, like Ricky Rubio was just electric. Like he's never been known to be much of a scorer in the second game. And same with Shetty Osman. Like he had, I think they had Rubio had 28 and he had 26, like guys that by no means have been their like top scorers throughout this year. And they both just had huge games against us in the second game of the series. And those are the games you feel like always lose, but Schroeder, I mean, he continued this week of just excellent play. Like he's I have some stats I'll kind of talk about later on when we finish up the week and kind of talk about it in review. But Schroeder was really good in this game too, and that was huge because Tatum didn't really have a great game this game. So having Schroeder come up big was very important for us getting the win, providing some sort of offense.
Definitely. It has felt like a little bit of a reoccurring theme. Having players like Rubio makes me flash back to the Fournier game. Some of these guys just have career nights against us. But I guess that's just the luck of the draw. The last thing I wanted to mention in that first Cleveland game was the fourth quarter was 29-15 Cavs for a 2-point loss. So we really
that was bad. Yeah, we had the game like in the bag. I remember that. Like we really blew it down the stretch. And it was really unfortunate because this team, I don't know. I knew after that game, I think we were like the third worst or second worst, like fourth quarter team in the NBA. And we're like a top 5 team the first like 3 quarters. But the fourth quarter is like probably the worst quarter to be a bad team in because like you need to win those games with big leads and you need to be able to close out games. And once again, we'll talk about the OKC game later, but we saw another almost collapse in the fourth quarter. Yeah, those Cleveland games, though, my takeaways from that, Darius Garland's good. Evan Mobley's very good for a rookie, way more advanced. I feel like most rookie big men usually are. And I think they'll be a good team in a couple of years. I think it's a little early for them. And I think they just got the news that Colin Sexton's going to be out for the year with his torn meniscus surgery and his rehab. So that's unfortunate for them. They're looking to maybe be one of those kind of fun young play-in teams like we saw last year with Charlotte.
Yep. On to the Atlanta
Hawks.
game. Yep. A little bit of a coming out party for Tatum. He had 34 again on decent shooting, 12 for 22. But the defense wasn't there in this one, or at least not to the level of what we've come to expect.
It looked like they like had a game plan. They're like, okay, we can't let Trae Young beat us. And they did a pretty good job. They contained, I believe, like 18 points, and they used like 0 for 6 from 3. But they really hurt us with the other guys. I know Herter in the first half was like unconscious from deep. Like he was just getting a lot of really open looks. I'm not sure how many threes Cam Reddish hit, but I knew Cam Reddish finished, I think, like 18 points. And he was pretty good. It was those like tertiary players, like, I mean, I guess I'm tertiary, that even John Collins, who's probably there, I think most would consider their second best player. Even he had a pretty solid game. He had like 20 points, but we didn't let Trae Young beat us. But I think all the role players on the team, all the secondary players on the team, like Bogdan, I know he had a stretch where I think he had like 3 straight threes to open up the half and really kind of extended their lead or gave them lead in the third quarter. Cam Reddish, like I said, John Collins, Capella wasn't really outstanding, but they just had a ton of guys that were just making big shots, and the Celtics really didn't. I believe this game, aside from Tatum, I know Schroeder didn't have a great game. I think Grant Williams was electric, but you're going to need more than just one other guy to step up when you're playing a team like the Atlanta Hawks, a team that does have the firepower and has the potential to have like multiple guys scoring 20-plus points in a game.
Yeah, you mentioned those second-tier players on Atlanta kind of boosting them to the win, and you see a similar pattern with the Celtics when – Schroeder, Richardson, Romeo, Grant all have 8 to 10. Those are normally the games we're winning. We had 11 points off the bench against Atlanta, and that was all from Richardson. So obviously Grant got
I've changed my tone on him. Like I'm back in on Richardson, but yeah, that you're not going to very many games with 8 bench points. He's looked good in not Romeo. I will get to the Romeo take in a little bit, but Neesmith has not looked good in the minutes since last year, but he's not been good in his minutes. We've needed Richardson to step up and play well, and he really has for the most part. So that's been huge. Grant being inserted into the starting lineup. Grant's played well this year, but when you take away Grant in the starting lineup, you're getting a lot of Enes Kanter minutes, which is really boom or bust for the most part. And, it's not going to provide very good defense. You just got to hope that he's able to crash the offensive glass and be effective in the low post, or else he's pretty much useless. And like we said, even with Schroeder inserted in the starting lineup, we really don't have a secondary bench guard that's really stepped up and taken a lot of the shot creation playmaking duties.
especially with Jalen and Rob out, it's just such an offensive spark off the bench. And it's like he's kind of boomer bust too, where he's going to come in with that aggressive, confident play style. And it's been exactly what we needed the last few games. I've noticed just like how controlled his shot is. Like, even if he's fading away or contested, he's very centered with his shoulders and his shot mechanics. Like, it almost reminds me a little of Lou Will, how he's able to like kind of get off balance, but it's still centered, if that makes sense. Like, he's one of the guys who don't mind fading a little in the lane.
Yeah, he's really good at that floater and like that mid-range pull-up.
Yeah.
From three, still not very good. I think he's shooting like under 35% on the year, right around there on the year.
We still like great from him though.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
If he can do. Yeah, if he's open, I don't mind him taking that shot. But I love the mid-range pull-up, and the floater has been really effective. He really needs to teach Romeo floater because Romeo's been horrendous around the rim. So we had the Hawks game that was obviously tough. Then we come back.
To recap a little, tough loss there, but it's a road game with 2 injuries. When you kind of look at some of the games that feel like a trap game or like they could, just be a tough one, this fell into that category where it's not like too heartbreaking of a loss.
No. Our next game was the Lakers, which was huge. This was a game that they got off to a really bad start. I can't think of what the score was, but I know like even at the end of the first, it wasn't
14 first quarter.
Yeah, they got down big. I think they closed it before the first quarter ended. They wound up like getting it within 1 by halftime, which I was okay with. Second half is when Tatum exploded. Schroeder was big this game. Marcus Smart was huge on both sides of the ball for the most part. Passing the ball, he was awesome as well.
Yep. Yeah, so as a little self-promote, this game fell on my birthday. I really had a feeling, the universe birthed a big Celtics fan this day. It's my Jordan year, a basketball-y birthday. So I told a bunch of my friends to bet a bunch of money on them, and I did as well. And then like 8 minutes before tip-off, LeBron's playing, and the line changes.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to just keep that never in doubt law of attraction attitude. But I was a little like, I just got a lot of people to bet the Celtics and the Kings back. But I think that just fired the team up. It fired the Garden up. It almost like was a good thing he played, despite how incredibly difficult some of the shots he hit were.
I mean, I think if he didn't play, it looked like he was going to be a blow because I think we really killed him in those non-LeBron minutes. I don't know what LeBron's plus-minus was. But it seemed like when he was off the court, they really struggled to create any sort of offense whatsoever. Defensively, I don't think it made a huge adjustment. But it seemed like aside from like 80 post-ups on like Grant, it seemed like they really couldn't do a whole lot offensively when LeBron wasn't on the court. Like a lot of their guys weren't hitting their shots. They didn't have enough kind of shot creators in order to get to their own shots. So I think it was obviously a huge win.
In that first quarter when it was really tough, and I have not been as big as fan early on, but Marcus just willed us back in. I mean, the one thing I was thinking in that first quarter, I don't think any of them were scared, but I was like, man, Marcus is not scared of LeBron, AD, the Lakers. Like, he was going right at the rim. And it's almost like that's what we've just been begging him to do all year, is get going downhill. I think he had 2 and 1s in the first quarter.
Yeah. Which is crazy because like
attacking.
AD is like known as being a pretty good rim protector, so it's wild because you're right, like it did seem like we were attacking the rim a lot. One thing I also noticed is Schroeder, and I mean I think Schroeder took it personally on the defensive end with Russell Westbrook because obviously they didn't want to offer Schroeder big money, but instead they traded for Russell Westbrook, who's making $44 million, and he seemed like he was locking up Westbrook all night long. Marcus Smart was, I think he only finished like 12 points or so. Like he had a very un-Westbrook-like game.
Yeah, that kind of slipped my mind pregame. I normally love those kind of like rivalries from trade talk and, lack of re-signings. And that totally slipped my mind. I'm sure you saw that graphic after the game that NBC put up, where it was like
NBC Sports Boston, it is the best.
Y'all paid Westbrook $44 million or whatever it was. But that was awesome. I wish that I had thought of that during the game because I love Schroeder and I'm not a big Westbrook guy. I was enjoying it, but would have liked it even more to be thinking it had something extra on it.
Yeah, I immediately thought that, and he was jawing at him and Rondo, because they obviously, I think it was mostly at Westbrook, but Schroeder, I think he got a tech at one point too, just jawing at the Lakers bench. I think he was enjoying it. It was good to see. It's great to see a guy that comes from the Lakers over to the Celtics, and obviously his animosity towards them because of what happened there. It was interesting seeing Avery Bradley and Rondo playing for them too. There's times where they're both on the court together, which was kind of very, very weird to see.
I always thought that Avery Bradley would be a part of the first post Big Three ring. I mean, I obviously have nothing against Avery Bradley. I loved him in Boston. But I was kind of interested to see if people reacted to him or Rondo. I think they got some cheers. There really wasn't much there. It's been a while now.
I mean, Avery Bradley, it wasn't his fault. Avery Bradley was dealt. It wasn't like he left on his own choice. But Rondo obviously won a championship, so we're always gonna love Rondo. No, and I think you're right. Avery Bradley is one of those guys where it's just he just is a guy that's you put and he plays defense and hits open threes for the most part. I think that's really the ideal role that Romeo turns into, is that Avery Bradley type player. It's he's just gonna lock up and be able to hit open threes.
That'd be awesome. Romeo's a little big.
That would be. Too. Yeah, he's bigger too, which makes him a little more switchable, right? Avery Bradley is really just best on smaller guards because he's only 6 feet tall, whereas Romeo's 6'4", 6'5".
Then of course
we wrapped up
in this game, 37, 11.
Oh yeah, 37. Very efficient. Yeah, he looked very good. It was good to see Tatum.
When Tatum does sort of that wide shoulder into the chest of the defense and powers up, going to the rim, I feel like he's just so effective. Once again, him and Smart, it's when we struggle and we shoot bad from three, it feels really ugly. And to see them just kind of attack the rim and have success there was really promising. Like you said, the Lakers have some big bodies down there. AD's an elite defender. Dwight's a huge body.
LeBron's not small. LeBron's still 6'8", 245 pounds. He's not a small guy either.
No.
Now they're pretty big, and it is tough finishing amongst them, but they did a pretty good job. It still amazes me. We've talked about this before. It's amazing that Tatum's not a better finisher because he's got seems like he gets wider and wider shoulders every single year and gets stronger and stronger, but he still can't finish around the rim for some reason. But he did a pretty good job the other night, and that kind of led into he obviously had stringing together 2 consecutive really good games, which is nice to see, and that led into last night, where he continued his hot streak. He had 3 straight games scoring 30 points or more, which is really promising to see because he's got off to a really, not necessarily a slow start because he was averaging 20-something points a game, but an inefficient start, I would say.
Yeah, good to see him turn.
His shooting numbers are
down. Yeah, so 6-point win against Thunder. They got outscored by 9 in the fourth, and
let's start with the fourth quarter. So the Celtics were up 11 with, I believe, a minute left, exactly a minute left, and they put in they're basically not in their second string guys, their third string guys, all the young guys. There's Hauser, Broderick Thomas, I think Fernando, Nesmith, and Pritchard. Yep. And they proceeded to give up 7 points in 40 seconds.
I was about to say, anytime you see them wave the white, or I guess it's not the white flag, but acknowledge that it can't, the comeback can't happen.
It's victory formation. Yeah.
Heard it. I just have this middle school memory of my dad and Guy clearing the starters with a minute left, and just like that, it was a 2-point game. But anytime that happens, something went wrong and fast. So 9-point spread. The Celtics really hurt their fans that love to bet them because there was no reason to not cover 9 there. I think it was 14 with a few minutes.
I just kind of stopped paying attention to that. I thought the game was over. And then I looked up and it was a 6-point game. And they had pressed, and then I think Nesmith turned the ball over and they hit a 3.
Dort hit 3. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, well, they need to put the starters back in, and they did. And they wound up being able to close it out with a 6-point win, but still that was ugly. I think Romeo must have got injured because like he looked fine. Like I didn't see any reason why Romeo didn't play the entire second half. I think he must have tweaked something.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of want to talk about with Romeo later. Is I don't think that he would have just got buried on the bench, especially because Neesmith played poorly, and it wasn't like they were like had plenty of wing depth to begin with Jalen being out.
And then you throw in that
was odd. So I'm gonna watch for that.
And like Shy, Giddy, Dort, some of their playmakers are right up the alley of the positions Romeo is able to defend. So I was thinking the same thing he played 8 minutes, was 1 for 1. I have to feel like he tweaked something as well. Hopefully he's all right.
Yeah. He played fine. It was +4 in the minutes he was in. He was playing good defense like he normally does. So that was weird. Trying to think what other takes from this game. Grant was 4 for 6 from 3.
He loves the corner,
which was good to see. He's been really stroking it. The corner, yeah, I think he's shooting like something like crazy, like almost like 67% from the corner or something absurd like that.
Schroeder 29, 6 and 4. I mean,
so some takeaways from the whole
players.
Yeah, another revenge game. Another revenge game. Former OKC under Dennis Schroeder. Same with Al and Canner. So we had a bunch of guys that were former Thunder players. Tatum trying to get another good game. Grant was good. Schroeder was good. Hopefully Schroeder can continue this. What'd you say?
I was just gonna say I'm losing you a little, but I gotta mention Cantor's shoes in the Lakers game. I'm not gonna make like a stance on them, but they're worth looking up. I mean, this man violated LeBron James on his shoes. Like, he had him with a communist flag and blood on his hands.
It's kind of tough because
Go ahead.
It's kind of tough because like Tatum's also signed by Nike, so it's like kind of a tough look. And people were making a fair statement, be like, well, if you're really that against like the NBA, like not bowing down to China, taking money, then you'd retire from the league as a protest, which is like kind of a fair point. I get the point that Cantor's trying to make, but at the same time, it's like, at the same time, you're chasing a check and like you're not willing to like leave the NBA because like it's kind of tough to really like side with him completely. I think the shoes are over, but
one thing I definitely just Cantor is his willingness to speak up. So I kind of agree. Like LeBron made a statement too, and he's like, dude, Cantor never talked to me. He walked by me in the hall and didn't say anything.
And they showed pictures and warm-ups where he just walks right by and doesn't even look at him. Like,
I just thought it was insane that he violated.
Okay, well, if you're gonna talk it, really talk it.
Yeah. All right. So we can skip back to Thunder. I
have some stats for the week. So just on the week, Tatum average on. If you want to do this right now, do you want to look up some lines for the
upcoming game? Yeah,
they play tomorrow.
Yep.
So Tatum averaged 29.6 on 45, 36.7 from 3, 87% from the field. Some very good numbers up on the season overall. Schroeder averaged 21 from 3, 100% from the line. Marcus really taking over the playmaking duties. He had 7.6 assists per game this week to 1.8 turnovers per game. Grant on the week in this bigger role shot 53.8% from 3 to bring his season-long percentage up to 43%, which we talked about at the beginning of the year, me and Emery did, where it's like teams are going to give him wide-open shots. If you're wide open like he has been in the corner, you need to be hitting like closer to 38-40%. And so far this year, he's really exceeded expectations. I really like what I'm seeing from him. And those are just some kind of stats overall from the week, some things I really noticed that I thought were pretty good, were pretty promising stats from everyone, some positive stats from the week.
So sadly, they're not given lines 2 days in advance, but I'm getting pretty good at seeing some patterns over the years. I'm going to go ahead and guarantee it's Celtics -10 at least. And if I had to bet on the betting spread, I would say it opens at Celtics -12.5. So that'll be interesting to monitor how close I am. It might even be bigger.
I'd probably hit the Houston line.
Yeah,
I think the Celtics would probably do the same thing they've done past couple nights. They've had a huge lead and then collapse a little bit, and it'd be like an 8-point game to end it.
They have a tendency to
So
play.
I might bet Houston there. I think Jalen should be back. He's been like questionable all week, same with Rod. I think Rob. They might hold him out one more game, so they play Brooklyn the following night. So they might want to just try to rest him up. Hopefully they can escape with a win against a kind of inferior Rockets team, and then come back at full strength, fully rested for Brooklyn.
It'll be fun to see Jalen Green. He's been super exciting, high-flying rookie, probably at the top of the leaderboard for Rookie of the Year. I am a little surprised the Rockets are 1-15. I mean, they're bad and they're young, but they're tough.
Yeah, for sure.
If Jalen's back, I could see that line being like 15, and I'd have to agree with taking the Rockets. The Celtics tend to play to the level of their competition. I feel like that's been a theme for years now. They'll beat the Warriors on the road when the Warriors haven't lost at home all year, and then they'll lose to the Cavs. So it could be tight.
Yeah, if we get to it, we'll find some lines tomorrow. We'll post on our Twitter page. But do you have anything else you'd like to add from this week, basketball wise, or anything else wise?
We do have another little giveaway on Twitter going on. It's about $10 worth of this coin that has a 45% APY if you stake it, called Yieldly. And I also just like the coin itself to go up. It trades at around 1.5 cents to 2 cents. So basically just every week or two, I'm going to give away 500 coins of that Yieldly. Maybe do a bigger giveaway when we get to 500 or 1,000 followers. So look out for that on Twitter. Hopefully the C's can keep it up. That's it for me.
Yeah. So that giveaway also I retweeted from the Mainly Celtics page. So go follow that on Twitter if you want to get some cryptos. Okay, well, I'll talk to you next week, Nolan. Hopefully off the Celtics going on a little bit run to end the month.
Say hi to Kate and the triplets for me. I see them running behind.
Will do.
All right.